Welcome everyone to our first Domestic Violence Awareness Month ceremony at Queens Borough Hall. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I want to begin by thanking our incredible guest speakers today, New York City NGBV and Queens Family Justice Center Executive Director Susan Jacob. Thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you to my colleagues in government for being here today, as well as the incredible nonprofit service providers who do this work year round. I also want to thank my staff for organizing this. Our Gender Justice Coordinator, Ariella Davidoff, thank you. Are you speaking today? You should. Our Director, I know I'm the VP, but I like the people who actually do this work day in and day out the most. Our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Michael Mallon, thank you. And support team, John Bittner, Aldo Grillo, and Omar Trabal, thank you so much. Could not do this anything without the team. We're here today to honor survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, as well as those whose lives were claimed by violence. Domestic and gender-based violence does not have one look. It is not always obvious. It can involve various forms of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, and often impacts our most vulnerable community members. In 2020, the NYPD responded to 24,138 reports of intimate partner domestic incidents and 16,851 family domestic incidents in Queens alone. Especially during the pandemic, global rates of DV increased sharply. Despite this rise, domestic and gender-based violence continue to be widely underreported, and I want to say in my capacity as the former chairman of the Public Safety Committee, we work very hard to push for texts to 911. With many of our nonprofit organizations as well, and the police department should do more in this specific area, making sure that those who may be suffering know that that's available. While our incredible local resource providers worked around the clock to ensure that essential services remained available, the turbulence of the pandemic, economic hardships, and the physical isolation and privacy created a shadow pandemic of domestic violence. This highlighted an important vulnerability that survivors know too well, that home is not a safe place for everyone. We acknowledge the difficult choices and honor the unbelievable strength of the survivors who grappled with the challenges we all face throughout the pandemic while being unsafe at home. Cycles of domestic and gender-based violence are made stronger by silence and stigma. It is critically important to break the silence and the stigma of domestic violence and for communities to uphold survivors as they come forward. I want to emphasize that domestic violence and gender-based violence is not just a strike against an individual. It is an act of harm against a community. It is everyone's responsibility to ensure that we are taking steps to end these cycles of abuse. The first steps to being an upstander are to learn to identify violence when you see it and to learn and share available resources. These private battles can create generations of trauma and inequality. And often when I would visit homeless shelters like the Saratoga Inn, you would speak to some survivors who in the middle of the night, I met a young lady, I'll never forget this story. In the middle of the night, she grabbed everything she had and had to leave her home with her child. So those are the people we remember and hold up, and we know it creates trauma on the family as well. To survivors, you are not alone. Essential services have been available and continue to be available, both virtually and in person. Our office is committed to ensuring that all mechanisms that are available for support are apparent, and we are here to connect you to the experts and resources that you need. I want to thank you all once again, especially the groups and organizations that do this work day in and day out. Thank you. I know it's not easy, but you're doing God's work at the end of the day. Thank you so much. You've saved so many lives. and we often don't say thank you enough to each and every one of you. So before I turn this over to the Deputy Borough President, I believe they want us to take a shot, picture, and then we'll, I guess we're joined by Assemblymember Wetron, so we'll let him say some brief remarks before